I'd like to welcome to the show Heather Lane, costumer. Welcome to the show.
Hey, hello. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. Heather, tell us what a costumer is and what do you do?
Well, a costumer, basically, it's basically someone who makes costumes. So you take an idea and you create it from start to finish to whatever character or costume you need. Could be anything from a character to a TV show, or it could be something theatrical from out of history, like Renaissance or whatever.
So somebody is going to be in a stage production. They'll come to you, they'll say, I'm playing an Elizabethan character. They'll come to you with a rough idea. What happens from there?
From there, I will research, I guess, the idea, find out what they're looking for, sort of look at the details of the costume, because, you know, every little detail counts, basically.
Okay.
So I will research, find as much information as I can about how to create that. If I can find a pattern as close to the real thing, I will. Then I will go from that, and then I will style it to however I need. So if the sleeve needs to be made bigger, I'll just sort of add the room that makes the sleeve like puffier or whatever.
Puff, yeah. So with source materials now, if you can't find something like the original material, you've got to go where? The internet, local stores?
Anywhere you can. Thrifting is wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can find a lot of stuff thrifting, depending on, like, because again, drapery fabric works wonderful because it's a lot of heavy brocades, some of the fabrics now. Sometimes you might luck into something that would work, I guess, for support. That would be a lot of it as well, because if you're talking like something with a big ruffian, the big, you know, ruffled Elizabethan collar kind of thing, you'd need something like very hard, so you'd be surprised what will suffice. You know, sometimes you know, like a mat, you know, or like something heavy duty that you know, to whatever works to help keep it up, kind of thing, right? So
how did you get into costuming?
Oh, just through my love of Halloween, basically. Anybody who knows me well knows that Halloween is my favorite time of year. So through the years, I used to get really excited around Halloween. Halloween was like, okay, what am I going to do this year? So yeah, I'd really get into it that way. And then, so, like, you know, and every year, like if I was making prom or bridal dresses or whatever, I would clear my calendar for like September, October, because that would be focused around whatever I was making for Halloween. So it's so it grew through there, and then once I discovered cosplay, well, that just opened it just opened up the entire universe there. So yeah, it just went crazy from there. So
cosplay, in case a lot of people don't know what it is, in case anybody don't know what it is, what would you describe cosplay as?
Cosplay, the word cosplay actually, I believe, comes from a combination of costume play. So it basically means dressing up as your favorite character or interpretation of that character. And, you know, most people who go to conventions, you know, and basically where all things nerd happen.
Yes.
So, you know, there's vendors and special guests and things like that at a convention, but that's what cosplay is. Cosplay is, and it can be used for, like, you know, you can visit kids, you know, some characters, like people dress up as, say, Batman or Superman. They'll go to visit kids in hospitals, but it's pretty much the same thing as costuming, basically, you know, to, like, when around Halloween. But it's just that now cosplay is used all throughout the year. All throughout the year.
What's some of the favorite pieces you've worked on?
The big ones that I guess sort of stand out to mind, I've done Professor McGonagall, which is my first one. She's, for anybody who's not familiar with Harry Potter, she's the headmistress for Gryffindor House.
Yes, she is.
And
That's right.
And I've done Shakti, Master Jedi Shakti from Star Wars. She's not a very well-known character. She appears in the Clone Wars, and she actually appears in the Sci-Fi or the CGI version of Clone Wars. Yeah, Clone Wars as well.
Isn't she?
She's a Togruta.
Okay.
Yeah, and she has like these big horns, and she's got the big long. Yeah, she's got a lot of tendrils. She's very, very much like a Twi'lek, which you probably might have seen from the original Star Wars with the two big tendrils hanging down. But she's sort of like an offshoot of that. But she has patterns like on her horns, and her skin is red. And she's a Jedi. She's all that.
All that. And so you made the headset for that.
Yes. Yeah.
How difficult was that?
Very.
Very. Give us,
Yes, it was very.
give us a little walkthrough of that one.
Out of the entire costume, I think I made the costume the quickest.
Yep.
But the headset was the most difficult because I had to create it right from scratch. So I had to look at her picture. I had to size it up from all different angles and directions, find out how long the tendril comes down in the back.
Yep.
I had to figure out how long they were in the front.
Oh, that's right, because
And-
hers comes down the back.
Yeah, she has like got a ponytail kind of thing.
Right,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
a Twillick,
yeah.
Twillick?
They only have two.
They've only had two.
Yeah, and they sort of, some of them wrap around like
That's right.
like Bib Fortuna or whatever. Yeah,
But this one has, what, 5?
she's got two horn-like
two
ones,
horns.
2 here in the front and then one in the back. Yeah, Ahsoka Tano is a Togruta as well.
Right.
And she's hers are shorter.
Yep.
But yeah, she's got a different color skin, but she's the same race.
So you had to make all that headgear.
From scratch, yeah.
From
It was
scratch.
made out of several trials and errors, and so yeah. So I was cutting, basically when I was cutting the pattern, if the horn stuck out too much,
Yeah.
I had to take away from the pattern in order to make them come in further.
Sure.
And it just took several trial and errors.
Yeah.
I have several pieces of it still in my scrap box,
Wow.
waiting to be used for something else. But yeah, it was basically several, different versions of it. It was all made out of sweatshirt fleece before I cut it out of the real thing.
And who else have you done?
Janeway, Captain Janeway.
Oh, Captain,
from
I've seen
Star-
that
yeah.
one. Yes, I remember that
Star
one.
Trek Voyager, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
that was nice. I've seen that one.
Yeah, she's one of, well, I mean, I love Janeway and I love Voyager, so yeah, she's definitely near and dear to my heart.
And you made that one?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and yeah, Captain Janeway, and I've also made also several other Star Trek or Star Wars costumes as well. My husband was Obi-Wan Kenobi from
nice.
from I think our most recent con, Sci-Fi and the Rocks con, and and I've made one for a very good friend of mine. He wanted the young Obi-Wan Kenobi from the first 3, and the second. My husband was the older Obi-Wan, so he had the
Right.
more dress type. Yeah. So Star Trek. Then I've done Jean Grey from the X-Men.
From the X-Men,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love her. Yeah, she's more the comic book version. So
Yeah.
she's got the phoenix here on her chest, and she's
Yes.
all in green spandex. And
Right.
Yeah. So that one's.
Is it hard to make costumes for yourself? Because I know, like, if I ever go to measure myself, it's like, this is not right, this is not right. So how do you do that yourself?
I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but you kind of got to know what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I've learned when you, I guess, over the years, I've just learned. They say not to do it yourself,
Yes.
but I do.
Okay, good.
Just
Well,
'cause-
it works for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it works
But
for
yeah,
you.
no, I take my own measurements. I guess because I know how. I stand in a mirror and I know where to put the measuring tape and stuff
Right.
like that, and I know how to fit it. There are times, I mean, you can't do it 100%. I mean, there's times when I call my daughter and say, "Hey, can you
Sure.
pin this up the back for me?"
Yeah.
And pin it right in and stuff like that. So yeah, there's times I don't 100% do it by myself. I'd be lying if I said I did. So
With the Jedi's costumes, seems like there's a lot of robes in those.
there are
A lot of layers?
Yeah, a lot of layers. They're very warm
Yes.
because you're talking. You've got an undershirt, then you've got the outer shirt,
Yeah.
which is just underneath the robe, and those robes are very warm.
Yeah.
They're like a lot of them are used like wool, heavy, which is So I mean, you can go outside in those easy in like the dead of winter and still be fine.
Because, like,
Especially here in Newfoundland.
exactly, because, like, if you make a costume like the Jean Grey one, that's like a one piece.
Spandex, yes.
But,
Spandex
like,
is cold.
Spandex is cold. Spandex is cold.
Ask
Oh,
me
it
how I
is.
know this.
But if you get like a Jedi, you've got like, it's almost like you're making different robes because you got different layers.
It's
to it.
3 or 4 different pieces. And like sometimes the pants, usually all you need is just like even a pair of jeans, or just loose pants or whatever.
Sure.
You can get away with that.
Right.
But yeah, you are talking several layers. Some of them are just like the crossover, and
Yep.
they have to pin inside.
Yep.
They have long sleeves because when the Jedi extends their hand, their robe comes down, and you can see another shirt underneath.
That's right.
So yeah, I know my husband. He was sweating his Obi-Wan because he had 3 layers on.
Wow.
He had his robe, plus he had the under robe,
Yeah.
which was linen and lined as well,
Yeah.
and just basically for stability purposes, because sometimes things don't flow right if they're not
right.
they're not lined, right? So they need it for stability, right?
Do you take commissions, or are you set up as a
I
business?
do. I do work full time, but I do what I can.
Okay.
I find it very hard to say no to a costume.
If somebody's
hard.
if somebody's interested and they want a costume, hire you. as a commission? How do they get in contact
They
with
can
you?
contact me through my website, or my email address is SoElegantCreations@gmail.com. They can find me on Facebook. I've got 2 Facebook pages, but my So Elegant one is sort of the more business-related one. The ADMIRALLA Cosplay is another Facebook I've had that just portrays what I cosplay and my costumes and things like that. It shows off my work, basically. But if they wanted to get in touch with me, SoElegantCreations.ca.
SoElegantCreations.ca.
Yes. So SEW.
Yeah.
ElegantCreations.ca.
Well, Heather, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure talking to you as always.
Absolutely.
And we'll be right back after this. These rocks are 300 million years old. Sci-Fi and the Rock is only 13 years old. Steve Lake is here to tell us all about it. And we're back with Steve Lake again.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, Steve.
I came back.
Welcome back again for the second time. Steve is here today to tell us all about Sci-Fi on the Rock, sir.
One of my favorite topics, Darren.
Yes, mine too.
For the past 13 conventions, something like 16 years now.
Yep.
Because we had a little bit of an interruption.
A little bit of interruption with COVID.
Yep.
Tell us about very first Sci-Fi on the Rock. Go back to the beginning.
Join me in my TARDIS.
Yes.
And we go way back to 2007
Okay.
on A Hope and a Dream and the Hotel Mount Pearl.
Yes.
And didn't even think anybody'd show.
No.
And got enough, I think it was something like 400 or 500 people turned out. And it was an amazingly enclosed day, more than we thought.
Yep.
I hosted a trivia contest for the first time. Had a good bit of fun doing that. I did.
Yes.
And we went to plan year 2, and the Hotel Mount Pearl said, we can't accommodate you because you've got too many people.
Yep.
We're too big.
Yeah.
So we spent Sci-Fi's 2 through 9 at the Holiday Inn, which was an amazing venue as we grew.
Yeah.
And as we grew and the actors that joined us got bigger, the event got bigger, to thousands coming to see us over the weekend. We went from a 2-day to a 3-day event, and eventually outgrew. We were bursting at the seams at the Holiday Inn when we moved to the Sheraton for Sci-Fi 10. So 10, 11, 12, and 13 have been there.
Yes.
And the Sheraton has been amazing to us, and they have been a really impressive venue.
Yeah.
And it's just a joy to do every year.
Now, you mentioned the events. Tell us about some of the events that happen at Sci-Fi on the Rock.
Well, we've got workshops and panels on anything that you can think of. Authors will talk about how to get into writing. Filmmakers will talk about how to get into filmmaking. There's something for everybody to see. There's an interest. You're probably interested in something that you didn't know that you want to check out one of these panels. The guest actors, they do panels where they talk about their careers. They do Q&As with the fans that come to see them. There's my trivia contest that I underplay.
No, your trivia contest.
Yes,
Let's
Geek
go back to
Survivor.
that. Geek Survivor. That started at number 1.
Started at Sci-Fi 1.
Yeah.
And it evolved
Into every year.
Every year.
Yep.
I get 3 teams of 3 into my final game.
Right.
Where they help each other along through the entire weekend.
Yep.
Until they get to the final round where the winning or the remaining team face off against each other. And it is the most evil thing when they realize this, because this is a team of people who've been helping each other out all weekend, giving answers, and now they have to all 3 face each other to crown one champion.
So it almost sounds like it's a cross between Jeopardy and Survivor.
Yes.
Oh, that's neat.
Yep.
And the questions cover every
aspect of sci-fi, pop culture, anything I can think of. There are 300 questions in total for the 4 different games, and I write them all myself every year.
Now, you mentioned pop culture.
Yep.
The convention is called Sci-Fi on the Rock, but it's not just science fiction.
Oh God, no. There's sci-fi,
tell us
fantasy,
some of the
horror,
stuff
pop culture. Again, there's a little bit of something for everybody to come out and see at Sci-Fi. Whether you're a geek, a nerd, a dork, whether you're a
whatever
civilian, I'll call them. But there's bound to be a muggle. There's bound to be something that has interested you over the years that you might find a little. In our vendor floor, there's a vendor room that has 70, 80 vendors selling any number of things from any number of fandoms. And you might find that rare toy collectible that you had forgotten about years ago. You might see an artist doing a print that you just absolutely love and you have to have.
So give us a rough idea. Someone walks in through the door. How is the hotel laid out? And what would be roughly where?
You come into the hotel and you go to your left, the registration, or you go to your right now, we moved it, the registration desk is there.
Yeah.
Once you have your pass and you're ready to go, You go over to the left of the Sheraton lobby, into the main vendor area. You'll hit Artist's Alley first, view all the paintings and things that artists are making.
Okay, so Artist's Alley, who and what would be in there?
Artists, drawing, painting, some doing commissions. It's just fan art that they want to showcase.
Okay, is it just like paintings, or is it
It's any host of media. There's crafts there, there's sculpture, it's mostly paintings, to be sure, but there's a lot of variety.
Okay.
As well, you'll find the different clubs and groups from around the province.
A couple of quick...
3D Printers Club, burlesque dancers.
Okay, wow, okay.
Hey, you know, something for everybody. And then you go into the vendor's room, which is a huge ballroom at the Sheraton that is converted into just rows of tables full of merchandise for sale. Like I said, there's toys, there's collectibles, there's chainmail, there's anything you could think of to find. There's ties. I believe you spoke to Midnight Tailors at one point.
Yes, we did,
They have been wonderful with us for years.
Great,
And you come back out of the vendors area into the main lobby. There's food concessions set up by the Sheraton. Go down into the atrium area is just a rest area. And all over the hotel are various meeting rooms, and there's maps planned out of where you can go see these different panels and such.
And there would be all the panels and the workshops that put out by all the different people. That is interesting. Now, you mentioned the food and concession stand, so people can actually come there
and
book a room for the weekend. And stay in the hotel the entire weekend.
You don't have to leave the hotel the entire weekend. Food is available, the restaurant is there, the bar is there, we're there. There's your full weekend's entertainment is in one spot for one price.
Now, speaking about price, for the price of the admission, you get access to all these panels and that. What are some of these special events besides the regular panels and the workshops and the dealer room that would be going on that people can take part in also?
There's a gathering with the guest actors that's on a VIP pass. The VIP pass also includes, I believe, a t-shirt, a commemorative lanyard for the year, and you get to meet the actors in a one-on-one setting in the evening, have a couple of snacks and talk to them. There's an after-hours dance for 19 plus. There's an all-ages karaoke.
Oh, nice. Okay,
So we cater to everybody. The VIP pass gives you access to a few more things that are around.
So, like the VIP thing, that's like something you'd have to pay a little
extra.
Extra for.
Get a little more.
Okay, good. Good.
But even for the regular admission cost, for what you'd spend on regular admission, you could see one movie in a theater.
That's right.
Or you could come see 3 days of absolute amazingness.
Excellent. And how do people find Sci-Fi on the Rock on the web?
On Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Sci-Fi on the Rock. It'll give you the main group. And the website is sci-fiontherock.com.
Perfect. So if you want to check out Sci-Fi on the Rock,
come see us. We're going to love it. Have a great time.
Great time. Sci-fiontherock.com. We'll be right back after this. If you have comments or guest ideas for Pocket Universe, please email darren.pocketuniverse@gmail.com. Wow, cave art. Look how far it's come, from caves to comic books. Up next, we have comic book artist Paul Tucker. And I'd like to welcome to the show Paul Tucker, comic book artist. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Paul, you are a comic book artist. Tell us all about your work, sir.
Wow. I feel like I was kind of born one. I started drawing comics really, really young, passionately, probably when I was 9. I remember having a moment where I picked up a book and I got to the last page of this comic I was reading, and I was sitting down in my grandparents' house, and I was like, well, this is what I have to do. Like, I need to capture this feeling, because I had to get the next issue. Like, I remember probably actually running to the store to read the next one. And I was in love, so I was drawing, always making my own stories. This was the thing, like, I was a child of the early 90s when Image Comics kind of blew up on the scene. And I think that's what connected with me the most, was when I was reading, like, Savage Dragon by Eric Larson. It said, you know, written by, created by, drawn by Eric Larson. So unlike the Marvel comics that I had kind of flirted with, like, I was like, oh, this one, the guy who made it is, like, drawing it, and he owns this, and he can do whatever he wants. And I've pretty much followed that path like my whole life. I've only ever really worked on things that are my own creation. So from a young age, I was making up my own characters, and it's still fun to look back at some of those. And right on up through, like, I think I had a healthy kind of variety of interests as I was growing up and went to university.
Okay.
I went to, and I studied visual arts at Grenfell. And, I played around with some other media and medium, but like comics was always like
Comics was always
humming
your main
along
thing.
in the background. Like, I might go away for a little bit, but I always came back to it. So I can go into all the details.
What was your first? What would you call it? A big break in comics? What would you call your
Oh, wow.
your first big success in your heart and mind? It's like, this is excellent. I'm happy with it.
I don't know. I feel like it's all these like little tiny like peaks.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, that's fine. Just
like
tell
I
us about
still
that.
sort of feel like I'm trying to get to that point of
Yep.
the whole. I think that's common amongst a lot of creators. Like, you kind of like work and work and work, and
Yeah.
some stuff breaks through. But I remember the first thing that actually like a publisher said yes to was a short story I did for this publisher that I think is defunct now. They were called AIT Planet Lair, a very cumbersome publisher name. But they actually had like a lot of big names in comics now kind of were published by them back in the early 2000s. So I submitted to what was effectively a contest, and one of my stories, one of the ones I illustrated was chosen. So that was my first like foot in the door.
Sure.
Then like the next bigger thing was a graphic novel with another publisher that is now defunct called Viper Comics.
Yeah.
That was in 2007.
Right.
And that was a graphic novel, a kind of horror, semi-zombie-ish, but not really zombie story. And from there, I kept on going. I kept on pitching and working with writers, and I had different kind of highs and lows. This book here, Tet. I mean, this didn't come along until 2015 or 16.
Right.
But this was like with IDW Publishing,
Yeah.
someone who I'd always kind of wanted to work with. And it's when I first teamed up with the writer who's also named Paul Aller.
Okay.
And we've since gone on to have a nice like working relationship. But yeah, when this book came out, I felt like, it had some critical acclaim. It was in stores. People were sending me pictures of them buying it, like in London
nice.
and other parts of the world, and that felt really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. You make these things, you spend all the time, like they take so long,
Yeah.
and you're in a lot of ways you're so exhausted by the time it actually comes out that. I'm probably guilty of like not stopping to celebrate very much. But the people in my life usually try to keep me honest and make sure I like, hey, look, this is cool. You did this.
So Paul, when you work with this other Paul here on this one now, say he writes a story.
Yep.
So how do you guys collaborate together? Like, does he give you ideas, or do you just take the story and envision everything in your own head and then put that? I'm saying pen to paper, or is it on computer?
I'm like largely analog tools. Like I use the same kind of a dip pen, like a nib that goes into an inkwell that like my favorite cartoonists from the 1940s would use.
Nice.
So it's lovely in that way. The color is all done digitally. It's just way more practical that way.
Okay.
So there's a push and pull there. But to go back and talk about like the writer-artist dynamic, I think it's like what makes comics really amazing. There's like a real legit argument to be made that, the writer is trying to think in pictures, and the artist is trying to use pictures as language.
Right.
So it's very like symbiotic. Like it's so foolish to me when there are these debates of like writer versus artist, which seems to like flare up every like couple of years. There's like a big debate about it, but I like reacting to another person and what they bring to me. So I've done some things on my own, like
Yeah.
just to kind of fill in some gaps and just explore some personal subject matter.
Right.
And some of my favorite works to read are like writer cartoonist jobs. But for me, comics is a solitary experience.
Yep.
I like to have that other person to bounce ideas off of.
Sure.
So Paul is I think he's an amazing writer.
Yeah.
Again, Paul Aller. I'm not speaking. I always have to tell people I'm not speaking the third person because I'm not quite there yet in my pretentious level. But he really can write, and he can really get to the heart of characters and people, which is what really appeals to me. So he brings me a script. I immediately start, visuals start to come. So
Sure.
something I do in like an early stage,
Yep.
like before like Tet was Tet, it was just untitled Vietnam War story. And we would just, I'd bounce ideas off him, show him
Right.
show him some of the kind of inspiration I'm thinking of,
Yeah, yeah.
and that might affect how he writes it. So
Sure.
yeah, there's a push and a pull for sure.
That's great. Well, Paul, thanks for giving us a little tiny look into your work and into the world of comic books today.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll be right back after this. That was a fun show, guys. I want to say a big thank you to all of our guests today, and especially to the Geo Center for allowing us to come in and film our fun here. I'll see you all next time on Pocket Universe.
The following program is brought to you by Rogers Anyplace TV. Enjoy exclusive content for